This is gonna be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guests. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously, have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're gonna show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 68 of the Dudes and Beer podcast. We are almost to the magical number of Bill and Ted's, but not quite there yet.
Can't say it.
Can't say it. Can't say it. Don't say it. Welcome, my name is Christopher Jordan. I am your host. With me tonight is Billy Stewart of Scary Dad.
What up, what up?
And also of Dudes and Beer, one of the other Houston co-hosts. We just had an episode with Randy that just came out, so that was wild, dude. We went on for like 2 hours about like all the new Alien announcement shit. It was fucking out there. But tonight we're going to start off with a little celebration with some cohibas. Apparently the good president on his way out has decided to lift the ban on Cuban cigars and rums. So
Thanks,
you can now. Thank you. I agree with that. Harumph. Harumph. I agree with that decision wholeheartedly. Bring us Cuban cigars. Thank you, good sir. So
as we just land all the damn drones,
that's right.
We'll be happy.
Yeah. As we light our cigars here, we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about all kind of Halloween goodness and spooky stuff right after this message from our sponsors.
Hey, he don't even have his license, Lisa.
Three drunk drivers.
Hey everybody, Chris Jordan, host of the Dudes and Beer podcast here. Has this ever happened to you? Tired of looking in your rearview mirror after a couple of drinks with friends or worrying about no-refusal weekends and DUI stops? Are you planning a night on the town and want an easy, safe way to get around while still having fun? Well, Fare is the ride service for you. Simply download the easy-to-use and free Fare app from the Google Play Store or iTunes Marketplace and use promo code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to save 10% off your ride. Have a Fare driver you liked riding with? You can not only give them a review and tip, but you can add them to your preferred drivers list on your Fare app and request them every time you ride with Fare. You can schedule rides with Fare to pick you up immediately or as far as 30 minutes to 7 days in advance, eliminating the need for last-minute calls and allowing you to pre-schedule pickups in locations other than your home city. Perfect for those traveling for business or for fun. So don't forget to stop on by and download that free Fare app and use the coupon code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to get 10% off your ride. That's right, don't forget the coupon code is DUDES10. So be like Dudes and Beer, everybody. Party safe, use Fare, and drink responsibly. And we are back. The nice robust cohiba over here. Oh man, yeah, you managed to get these fairly regularly.
I managed to get out of the country, at least every other year or so.
Yeah.
I, stack up a pack and bring them on back.
Yep.
Now I don't have to bring them home in my rectum.
That's right. That's right.
Those boxes
are not comfy. They're not. I had a good friend of mine, Nick White. Shout out to Nick White. Years ago, he had a buddy of his whose dad used to go and do business. I want to say it was like down in South America. And he would always bring back boxes of Cuban cigars and stuff. And every once in a while, he'd have a box at his apartment. It was just so nice to have one. They are the best. They're absolutely amazing. I love them. They're one of the only cigars that I will actively take my time to inhale because, yeah, it's that smooth, that rich. It's so absolutely amazing, especially the tiny cohibas.
Yeah, I try not to inhale. there's definitely the temptation, and as we smoke this one, it may happen a time or two, but when I do, man, the next day I wake up and I sound like Tom Waits.
Yeah.
It's
got the hell rasp to your voice.
Oh God. Not only that, dude, but the heavy cigar smoke, even though it's smooth, but it's heavier than wood smoke or even cigarette smoke.
Well,
man, it causes me to snore and I get kicked out of the bed.
Right. Think of the possibilities though in places like Colorado now, where you could go and have yourself like a Cuban blunt at the smoke shop. I guarantee you they're going to start selling Cuban blunt papers now.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, certainly.
Then you just got to make sure you're actually getting them from somewhere reputable.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, is I don't know if the decriminalization, so to speak, I don't know if it opened the door to imports as much as it allows you to bring back what you want.
Okay,
I don't know
if you'll be able to find them at your local cigar shop.
I don't know if you're able to buy and sell them. I mean, I don't know. I
can't imagine that you wouldn't be able to.
Tobacco regulations being what they are.
Yeah. True that. It is a highly
I read an article
regulated
a while
industry.
back whenever tensions with Cuba got lightened, that was talking about don't look for cigars in your local cigar shop because the FDA regulations on cigars that went into effect a few years ago affected essentially all of these regulations affect everything that is in motion in commerce as we speak.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything that is not is excluded from future commerce. So since they weren't bought and sold then, I don't know if the FDA is going to make an exception. I don't care. I know enough people that go overseas. I can
exactly.
Some cash and say,
hey, pick me some up while you're there. Exactly. I remember I was looking for some for you whenever I went on my honeymoon.
And you brought me back Mexican porn.
I brought you back Mexican porn instead. Oh. That was classy.
that was pretty funny.
Speaking of scary things.
I was just thinking you just couldn't read.
Oh, no. I read Spanish very well.
No. You're like,
El Porno.
Amy, which of these should I buy? Mm-hmm. The box of rolled up tobacco or the magazine with naked Mexican ladies in it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which to buy, and I've only got a couple of pesos.
Actually, the answer was, for Billy, definitely the porn.
Gotta say, I appreciate it.
And speaking of scary things,
that's not scary.
We are to move right into stuff. One of the things that I've known Billy. He's one of my longest friends in life. We raised so much hell together, literally, and the summonings were amazing. But we spent quite a few Halloweens together. And just going out, having a good time, dressing up, doing makeup, all kinds of stuff. And I am so, so happy that you own Scary Dad and that you do stuff like that still to this day. We took woodshop together in high school, and you always made some really great projects in there. Not that we made any more than a box and a turkey and stuff like that, but it was always very well done.
That class was more damage control by the teacher
trying
to keep the kids from killing each other with the tools.
Yeah.
Than actually making stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had like fingers flying at us while we were trying to...
Well, we did have a lot of people that didn't know how to read a ruler when they came to 9th grade, and that was kind of disturbing.
That was bad.
But you know how to read one amazingly well. And the ruler is quickly shrinking for Halloween. So how have the preparations at the Scary Dad house been going?
Preparations have been going well. I've gotten to a point where I'm going to have to figure out something to do because I'm running out of storage space for just the ones that I have. And I always have ideas for new things to make.
Yeah.
So this year I actually took it a little bit light on the new creations and just kind of bolstered up and kind of enhanced some of the ones I already had.
Okay.
I built a couple of cool little scary ground bursters with pumpkin heads. They look like little, they're little demon monster things.
Yeah.
Which since the kids came, my wife's been saying, don't make scary stuff because it'll scare the kids. My kids both love it. So it's,
Yeah, one of your pictures recently was them sitting around the table with all the skeletons
Yeah.
and naming them.
Exactly. And so, this year I built a couple of plywood ghost sconces and made those little guys. But then I just went back and I kind of rewired the joints on some of my skeletons. Just kind of enhanced some of the pieces that I already had that, I've been, just through years of use, been starting to fall apart. And, we're having the annual Halloween party at the crib, which you're going to be there.
Heck yeah.
This year I went a little, I don't want to say off the books, but it's not really scary as much as I made a tremendous amount of apple and peach butter.
Nice.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that.
Render those apples down. It's funny, man. There's an entire cottage industry of buy this chemical and burn it, and it makes your house smell like cinnamon and apples. But you know what works better?
Putting a bunch of cinnamon and apples in water and boiling it down.
Putting that shit in the crock pot and letting it go for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Your house smells amazing.
Yeah, right? Just straight hungry for like half a day.
It's beautiful.
Like, I can't eat enough. What's wrong?
Oh, well, dude, you can walk by and just
Yeah.
stir it, and you're like, get the scum off the side, and you take a spoonful, and it's just,
It's the Mott's.
So, made
well, you also made some cider
made a
as
few
well.
batches of cider, which we'll be sampling at the party. I keep telling myself I'm going to make mead, but I also keep forgetting to buy honey at the stores.
Yeah.
That's an important ingredient.
I forget where I was. Recently I saw something where there was like local honey, and it was by like the jar.
Yeah, you can buy them.
Like
they've
massive
got
jar.
places all over the place that you can get it.
Yeah.
HEB even sells local Texas.
Yeah.
In bulk. Like you tap it and fill up your bucket.
Frequently, your local farmers market's probably your best bet because you're going to get it from a locally sourced person.
Right.
And it's going to be a whole lot cheaper than your off the shelf shit.
Of course.
In bulk.
Well, even so, the off the shelf stuff you really can't tell. When you go to your farmer's market and you got some old lady and she's selling a jar of, or a tub or big gallon jug of honey, and then she's also selling filtered and unfiltered beeswax and candles at the same table.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of legit.
Yeah, I think she might be all right. Yeah, I remember there was a guy when I first moved to Austin, a friend of Amy's friend, Julie, that did, I guess, bee remediation. Came out and removed beehives and stuff. And every once in a while, it'd be like, he'd come home with like a bucket of like, honeycombs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah. Well, my brother-in-law a few months ago, he bought a little parcel of land, about 16 acres out a little bit north of Beaumont. And he's going through the process now. Well, he's dealing with the Forestry Service. But essentially, whenever you take active steps to rehab property, they help you with it. They send out consultants and they reimburse you on stuff and stuff like that. So his plan is he's going to get, it's like an hour away. So it's not like it's,
right down the road.
No, it's not like a remote bug out location. It's, you can pop out there on a weekend and be,
it's a Texas minute.
You can be there and back, and so he said he's gonna get some hives. So that's
nice.
Pretty cool.
Hell yeah, dude. Have a nice little apiary set up. That'd be dope as hell, dude. And, actually bees, speaking of which, bees were just added to the endangered species list.
Some species.
So I think there were 7 species in the United States, but still.
That's bad.
That's not a good thing.
No.
I believe it was Einstein that warned us. When the bees go, humanity will be next. Like we will have no food product.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how that's how pollination works. And they got those little stingers in their butt, but other than that, they're probably the most beneficial insect we have.
Absolutely.
We can't kill them.
Wasps actually don't pollinate a whole lot.
No.
Not as much. They do pollination by default, by accident, but it's not a purposeful collection of pollen. And
wasps are predators.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a different
Yeah, exactly.
dynamic.
Well, and speaking of predators, let's start getting into some crazy shit, man. What have you been watching? What have you been reading lately? Because you're one of the most well-read guys I know. Like, you read constantly. You're always got your nose in something. And especially whenever it comes to the horror genre. Like right now, I've been trying to watch a horror movie a day.
Nice.
It's Halloween.
Yeah.
It's Halloween. So the other night, Amy and I actually sat down. It was her first time to ever watch The Exorcist.
Okay.
And you know me, I can watch The Exorcist probably daily, like Fletch. It's easily in my top 5 movies of all time, and I love it. But what have you been watching?
Well, it's nice to have that kind of time, actually.
I'm self-employed.
Well, I know.
I have movies on while I'm like programming.
I can't do that. I mean, no. Even if I could, I got the 2 little kids.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go to Scary Dad, I wrote an article a couple years back about how tough it is being my horror fan.
The challenges of being a horror fan father.
Yeah, with little kids in the house. Because even when it is your turn to choose the show,
you can't be what you want to watch.
You got limits.
Okay, so we can watch Corpse Bride.
Right. So yeah, we watched Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Hell yes.
We've seen ourselves some Nightmare Before Christmas a few times. There's Alvin and the Chipmunks Halloween special. There's that kind of stuff, which is fun.
Yeah,
gets you in that little nostalgic feeling. My wife was out of town last week. I got a chance to catch The Witch.
Oh, yeah, dude. Let's talk about that for a little while. Because I know you had the same complaints about it that I did, which was the audio.
Right.
It was up, down, up, down, up, down.
I think if you were in a theater with a good solid 5.1 where where the vocals were actually mixed in its own speaker. And
my vocals are mixed in its own speaker, and no.
I mean,
That's the way it's, and there are quite a few movies that are mixed that way.
It was just
recently.
bizarre because the music,
and music was amazing.
The music was great.
Oh my god, dude, I love the music so much.
The music was so loud.
Yeah,
and then the dialogue was whispered. And just like any other movie, like he would say something, and then there would be a musical accompaniment or like kind of punctuation, and I had to sit there with the whole movie and volume up, volume down, volume down, riding it
the whole time.
And my kids were asleep. And I'm like, dude, come on. But no, the movie itself, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the movie. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the concept of scary is subjective. It had a few good jump scares.
Yeah.
And it was a good movie, and I recommend it. I gave it a solid B.
Yeah, no.
And most
Same
of that
here.
was from the sound editing.
I thought the twist was fucking.
It did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, dude. It was.
I loved it.
I guess the thing is that there's certain movies that are grab you by the balls, scary.
Yeah.
They stay on your mind, and they creep you out.
Yeah.
Make the house feel sinister, like you're walking around the house, like ooh, maybe
seeing shit out of the corner of your eye. I need to turn the lights on real quick.
This one didn't really do that to me.
Walk like you got the quick steps.
Yeah, that one, it was good. I watched it. It was over. Turned off the TV. Yeah. It was middle of the night.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't psychological thriller or anything like that. It was most definitely more of an old folk tale. Which if you read the stuff at the end, it kind of told you that most of it was taken
from old
folk tales of the time and the era. Even the version of English that they were using was drawn from those diaries and stuff like that, which is what drove Amy nuts about it, because she already has the issue with hearing soft vocals. But then it was like, hey, let's do soft vocals crucible status.
Right.
Let's get into 1620s American English, that's slightly different than court English over there, and it's really a dialect of something, but it's like all these strange words and shit, and you're like, I can't hear what you're saying to begin with,
right?
Much less understand this crazy dialect.
Well, it's kind of funny because, especially at this time of year, I just recently stumbled on a new podcast that is...
Do tell.
It's full on obsession. It's called Lore.
Okay.
Just Lore. And it's about a 30-minute episode. And he releases an episode every 2 weeks. But what he does is he'll take a some aspect of folklore, globally, not just here.
Yeah.
But some local folk tale or urban legend or something of a nature, and he'll go through it, and then he attempts as best he can, given the historical record and everything else, to pull the most likely truth out of it.
Okay.
Like what is the most likely?
So
thing
like
to
an
happen?
urban legends type show.
Yes, but it's also very, very folklore.
Okay.
Like one example, without spoiling, because there's like 40 something episodes. I've been going through 2 a day or so.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like I've been obsessed. But like one example is, did you know that the Pied Piper of Hamelin was real?
Yeah.
And he wasn't a rat catcher. He goes, tells the story of the Pied Piper.
Mm-hmm.
He tells the story about, you know, how impactful rats were. You know, right now, if a rat gets into your flour, you throw the flour away, you go to the store, buy new. Back then, rat got in your flour.
You kill the rat, you keep using the flour.
Or you die, because it depends on how ruined it is.
Well, I mean,
Pied
Pied Piper of Hamelin came out right up around the time of the bubonic plague, so...
Well, there is a town called Hamelin in Germany. And what it turned out, not necessarily that this actually happened, but the most likely thing that happened, north of Hamelin, there was borderlands. There were 2 powers that fought, and the southern power won. So this is going to be pre-Germany, but, you know, Germanic areas in like the 1300s or something. Anyway.
Teutonic Germany.
They needed people in these conquered lands. So they would send out, for lack of a better word, pipers, men who dressed in colorful, garish clothing and brought horns, and they would essentially come in and buy your children and take them up north to either as slaves or as so, you know, long story short, this thing that you've always heard about, this magical piper who comes to town and takes the children away, there was somebody who came to town and took the children away. And it's a matter of public record in the Hamelin city records. Yeah. And he does this sort of thing with a lot of folk tales. Okay. Because most legends and myths came from someplace.
There's a seed of truth.
There's a seed of truth in most of it. Yeah. And he goes and tries to find it. Yeah. And it's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's fantastic.
And it's addictive.
That's great as hell, man. So, I love shit like that. I'm going to have to check that out. What's it called again?
Lore.
Lore. Shout out to Lore.
Shout out to Lore. Aaron Minky. Freaking.
All right.
Brilliant. And he's in talks with the producers of Walking Dead to start his own show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Give him a harumph.
Harumph. Absolutely, dude. I mean, shows like that, I love shows like that actually break down the history of stuff. Because, like you said, like we were just saying, a lot of them start from kernels of truth. Because, the story of the Pied Pipers, he came in to get rid of all the rats and stuff like that. And when the city didn't pay him, he was like, I'll just take your children instead. Yeah. And wrote a song to entrance the children and lead them out of town. Yep. So... And you know that rings right into let's get into some urban legend type shit, because there's like, I mean, of course right now there's been the rash of fucking clowns around the country, which I love. I'm enjoying it. Some of it's getting a little creepy with kids and shit like that, you know, where they're like showing up near playgrounds, near schools and stuff, and that's a bit much. But there was one like up near schools. We're talking about a college here. But this case was up in San Marcos in one of the apartment complexes near campus for Texas State University. And it was a clown that was walking around with a chainsaw, just rolling around with a chainsaw. And it was reported. They never found him. They never caught him, you know, so they don't know if the report was real. But
I think it's got...
Well, and that one's pretty easy to source. People have been like, where'd this clown craze come from? And there's been the friggin' clown that's been appearing in Pennsylvania for years.
Yeah, I mean,
years.
there is that.
He's been just, and I mean like year round, not even like just at Halloween.
There's a dude in Indiana that got shot in the head.
Yeah.
Creepy clown popped out on somebody who wasn't going to mess and ended up getting himself shot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's dangerous, and people are on alert. I mean, it's like, we used to go around and prank things all the time.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that we did then would put us on we wouldn't be able to fly if they knew.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, this is
just leave it there.
This is just something where I think there's a line, and then a lot of these clowns are crossing that line, and they're kind of which
just sounds like these clowns are crossing that line, man.
Hey, man,
what are these clowns up to? But literally, they're clowns,
Yeah.
Like,
well, there was a YouTube video the other day of a clown getting his ass beat.
Mm-hmm.
He walked up. There's like all these guys sitting in a car, and clown just walks up, being all creepy, and this dude jumps out of the back seat and just goes and hits him with a bat and knocks him, kneecaps him.
Yeah,
and just beats the hell out of him.
Yeah,
pulls his balloons out of his hand, like floats them away.
Yeah.
And, like,
what up now, dude?
So,
creep up on me.
No, I mean, urban legends. There's always something. I mean,
well, one of my favorite ones that's come out over the last many years is Slender Man.
Yeah.
Which started as just an utter fluffer nutter story that somebody was writing,
Yeah, somebody wrote it on Reddit or something.
Yeah. And then it just became this whole thing. But then, kind of like Randy and I were talking about in the last episode, the magical concept of the egregore. Something Wes Craven worried about, that he had created one whenever he did Nightmare on Elm Street, because right after the Night Stalkers started, and he was wondering if what he put out there didn't create the Tibetan thought form,
right?
And actually bring this thing to life in somebody and put these ideas into somebody's head because of the mass thought form thinking about this. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of what's happened with Slender Man, because
two girls killed that other one.
Yeah, like took her out as a sacrifice to him. Stuff like that, like their friend, like they knew this girl.
Oh, yeah.
I forget where that was, Minnesota or something like that. But yeah, just people have taken this thing as something real, and it's odd that, and it's really one of those that beyond the crocodiles in the sewer or alligators in the sewer urban legends, it's really one that has taken root in a really rapid amount of time.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about is the textbook definition of a meme.
Yeah.
A meme is not just text on a picture on the internet. It's actually, a meme is something that self-replicates and gets passed in its original form. It's not like the telephone game where the story changes from person to person.
Yeah.
It changes, it takes on its own, and it stays together in its original form as it flows through, and then it becomes part of the zeitgeist. The thing is, the internet, everybody's connected.
Yeah.
So you can come up with something like it's a viral video. It's something that everybody sees the exact same thing in its original form, and it's at the end of the day, I mean, I like to talk about and read about and think about and ponder concepts of ghosts and gods and demons.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of just screwed up kids out there right now. And, we change subjects and go into the concepts of, I don't know. Well, let's go back. So I'm listening to Lore a lot. And he does a whole lot of stuff about witches, burnings,
prosecuting gingers like me,
scares, witch scares and stuff of that nature. And he's talking about how, like, back in the day, all you really had to do to get burned or hung or whatever to get accused of being a witch is to be different, be unpopular.
Yep. Look a little bit different.
Just,
Be a homebody.
Mm-hmm. And that was an accidental inhale.
Cohiba.
Right?
Mine was delicious. Thank you.
But the thing was, as with everything, you can be certain that there have been people, even back then, who were actual witches.
Yes.
Even if, at the end of the day, they were just, but there, the concept, the concept of the dark arts. Let me finish because
go ahead.
The concept of the dark arts is something that was frightful.
Yes.
It was fearful. You feared for your soul in the afterlife, but you also feared for your life in the here and now. Mm-hmm. Because these witches supposedly had power that could cause crops to fail and cause your livestock to die or whatever.
Yeah.
And at this point...
Cause you to be enchanted.
At this point in our history, in our thought process, we don't think too much of a cow falling over dead or not giving milk or a crop failure because we have crops from sea to sea and we import. But if you're living in a village where a crop failure means you die...
Yeah.
And you have like a scapegoat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then to stack on top of that, you also have the potential for everlasting hellfire and brimstone for associating with these people.
Yeah.
Not to be an apologist for the witch hunters, but they were pretty scary to have around if you thought there was...
Yeah, and that's just it. Like people think that the witch craze happened here in America. The witch craze in America was really short and brief. There was 200 years almost
of massive witches,
of mass hysteria over witches. Even Malleus Maleficarum,
right,
was the first document that came out. Really, the Hammer of Witches. That really laid out what a witch was, what a wizard was, all that kind of stuff, and what to look out for. But even then, a lot of that was misnomer because most people don't realize that we think witch, we see bubbling cauldron, we see these things. We think we think the Stygian witches. People with like crazy powers and stuff like that. We think about bewitched. But that's not it. Most of these people that practice witchcraft or Wicca, as we know it, are herbalists. They're people who, literally worship the earth.
Not necessarily, because I've read a lot of this stuff as well.
Yeah. What I'm saying is very few of them are out there sacrificing a pullet at the crossroads.
Oh, no, for sure. What I'm saying is that at points in history, there were those people.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely.
I've read a lot about like Vikings and Scandinavians and stuff, and how like in the Christians.
Oh no, the Celts absolutely practiced blood sacrifice. The Druids practiced blood sacrifice. They were
one of the reasons that Western culture eschews eating horses is because the horse rituals that the Vikings performed were so horrible to their sensibilities that it
was barbaric to them,
right?
Yeah.
So there are even now there's people who worship Satan. There's a lot of Church of Satan people who are textbook atheists who are just
well, even the Church of Satan though says do no ill.
But what I was going to loop back around is in the old days, and even into the not so distant past, you had a darkness that was palpable, but it was held at bay by tradition and fear and superstition and religious doctrine. There's a whole lot of kids looking into these dark themes without having a counterbalance or any kind of
with no grounding.
And to say, and again, I don't want to get into like religious concepts or saying one thing or another, But if you have somebody who is an atheist and does not believe that these things exist, then they start picking up and playing with these old concepts and rituals and, things of that nature. And it's fun and it's alluring and it's cool.
Sure.
But you can fall into
Yep.
And this is shout out to the atheists. I'm not saying that
nobody's saying there's
I'm not
anything
saying
wrong
that you
with
become a Satanist
Gnosticism or atheism.
I'm saying that whenever you remove a cultural barrier to bad behavior, the bad behavior is going to occur more often, so to speak.
Well.
So and again, I'm kind of stumbling over my words here, but
but
I think you can understand.
A prime
what I'm
example
saying.
to go back to what I was saying earlier in The Exorcist, Captain Howdy was the spirit to which Regan, the young girl in the movie, was talking through a Ouija board. She and they asked her later on. They asked the mother, does she have any religious background? No, none whatsoever. And there's a reason why like most religions say don't play with Ouija boards. It's not necessarily like Milton Bradley makes them, whatever. It's not necessarily the fact that it was made with arcane means, with like blood dripped on the wood, and things like that in high ritual. It's the intent that you are putting behind it. It's the invitation of the vampire at the window.
Right.
It's the dude knocking on your window at night and you go, who's that? Open the window. Let me talk to you. Okay, now you've opened the window and you've let the vampire in.
Correct.
And once you let the vampire in, that's on you. That's why the vampire can't force himself on you, because you have a soul. You see, that's the lore to go loop it right back to that podcast. That's the lore of it, is that because you have the soul, you are immediately protected from that until you invite it in. So by her playing with the Ouija board and accepting Captain Howdy as a friend, she invited that demon into her.
Right.
Which, of course, led to hijinks and, vomit and dead people and, your cuntling daughter, things like that. One of my favorite lines ever. I love that line. but that is something that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't grasp that, like we were saying, the witch trials and the witch hunts, like true hunts. There were witch hunters in England during these times, and they actively went around with rituals and rites and, with tools to find witches. And if you thought something was bewitched, you called upon one of these people and they came to your town and they found them and they rooted them out.
Right. And the funny thing is, if you read the history, they found a lot of witches, but they also did. They also didn't find a lot of witches.
Yeah.
Or they could have found a lot of witches.
Yeah.
They went to places where shit was going wrong and they're like, there ain't no witches here. It's just a bad season for you.
Yeah.
And moved on. Makes you think.
Well, and it is one of those, like, I don't know. I definitely, I'll get a little existential here. You know me. I'm a person of faith. I'm a person of spirituality before religion, above all things. I am Catholic, but beyond that, I believe in so much more. There is so much more to me. And yeah, I don't know. I've studied these things. Like I've read the work of the Golden Dawn and stuff like that. A lot of the high magic, and that's what people think witches are. And that's what I was saying earlier. Is that most people think that witches are full on casting spells all the time and stuff like that. And most people who practice Wicca, who would be in the Druid realm, stuff like that, they were really people who used crystals and minerals and stuff like that for healing abilities.
See, so much of that is modern. It's modern props, and one of the things that can kind of spin your head around thinking about is thinking about how kind of like the back to earth movement now and like wild crafting.
Yeah,
and there are people who go out and there are, I don't know, probably at least 8 or 10 edible plants in your yard that you don't even know are edible.
Yeah.
Well,
I know most.
Back in the day, that was common knowledge.
Yeah.
You read the Bible a lot, and you knew that foxglove would kill you, and those kind of mushrooms are okay.
Yeah, but not everybody per se was like in the Cajun tradition, the traiteur,
Well,
the person that lived out in the swamp that knew all the healing herbs.
There were people who specialized.
Yeah.
But again, our modern concept of, I'm sure if you were to try to, if you were going to go back, 500 years and find an actual witch and hand her a crystal, she'd probably be like, "Oh, that's pretty."
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah,
I'm not talking an actual witch.
No,
I'm talking about
crystals and stuff are much more the New Age movement and everything else.
I'm talking about,
not traditional Wicca.
Well, and I also, it's one of those things too, because so much things work because of chemical reactions and science.
Yep.
But I always ask because, hey, really and truly the concept of flight, it shouldn't have taken us this long to figure it out. You know what I mean? And we talked about that on a podcast where
Sure.
I actually believe that people have flown before, but just whatever they flew in has since disintegrated into the dust. But Leonardo da Vinci made flying machines. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They were talking in Greek mythologies, Icarus and Daedalus.
Yeah.
Okay. And I asked my dad a long time ago, like, what's up with that? He's like, well, unfortunately, son, if he had just come right out and said, "Hey, look, I can fly," they'd have burned you as a witch.
They'd have killed you.
Because God didn't intend you to fly.
Yeah.
Else He would have given you wings.
That's it.
And it's like, ooh. So, so much progress, but then so many things. Like I always say, how are we on time?
Oh,
okay.
Go, dude, go.
Oh, we've done the live one, so you're
Yeah. I know. We're always regimented to 45 whenever we're doing live, but we aren't live.
I have, and we talked about it that one podcast about aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have the not ancient aliens, but like ancient civilizations. Like I believe that at some point man has been this far advanced before.
Oh God, yeah.
And like I said, just to reiterate, the only difference, other than perhaps obviously there's nuclear capabilities, but we don't even know that in and of itself is
the
not
story.
lost.
Hey, the stories of the Vedic tradition talk about
Fire.
Well, like, and there's vitrified glass there also. Like out in the desert of Iraq, there's vitrified glass, and the only way you get that is through like friggin' atomic explosion.
Right.
But
the only difference is plastics.
Yeah.
That's the only real major difference. And I'm not talking about
synthetics.
culture. I'm talking about like our building materials.
Yeah.
Our houses are built pretty much the same as they've always been built.
Sure.
There's certain physics.
Really big lean-to.
There's certain physics and geometry, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And so much materials. And all of our materials rot. They decay over time. Wood decays, metal decays.
Well, have you ever seen the show? Oh God, what is it? It was on the Discovery Channel. It was like the end of mankind or something like that. And it was literally like, what would happen? Like, if humans ceased, what would happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the grid would go down within days.
Everything would burn.
Everything, like, within like 3 to 4 years, cities would be completely encroached again by forests. Like, buildings would be crumbling.
Right.
Stuff like that from disrepair. It's just wild. Like, within 10 years, there is, like, Houston would cease to be. It would be, like, overtaken by jungle. So, yeah, whenever you look at ancient civilizations, it's like they just discovered one of the largest pyramids in the world in Mexico that's been covered by jungle.
Yeah. And so, I always end up feeling as if I'm some sort of creation apologist, but I'm not really.
No.
It's more of if you take a lot of our modern technology, especially with all the stuff we do with wireless now and hands-free, but, you can walk, I mean, they've even got chipped implants where you can walk up to your house and have your door open.
Yeah.
From a locked door to an open door.
Yeah.
You can speak into the air or wave your hands around. And what is a magic wand but a remote control?
Well, and that's something Randy said in the last episode.
And whenever you go back into, and this is just into the Bible, and I don't want to get into I don't want to get deep into the weeds.
Sure.
But there are warnings about gathering together into cities.
Oh, yeah.
And
Babylon.
well,
just
period. Because
that was people gathering together in a huge city to build the technology to.
Well, that's the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What I'm talking about is no. There's warnings about gathering together because we are supposed to be nomadic hunter-gatherers. That's what we're built and made to do.
Yep.
Whenever we get together and we build civilizations,
just glorified gardeners, according to that book.
Well, yeah. Whenever we get together, we have war, we have slavery, we have government, we have coercion, we have misery, starvation, plagues, all kinds of stuff that doesn't happen to general hunter-gatherer societies.
Yeah.
So I believe that this has happened before, and we're probably at an apex now. I'm not saying that we're anywhere near the end of the world, but we're coming up on a point at which we've got the technology now within the last 100 years, now that we can destroy all life on Earth. At some point, something will crawl out of that mud and start building again. And in, another 30, 40,000 years, there will be an us-like thing having a conversation like we're having now, thinking that they're the only thing that's ever been.
Yeah.
And the Earth is way too old to have its primary species only having just now learned how to fly 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's my thing and like I said, I always end up being an apologist, and it's not because of a Bible thing. It's more of a mythology thing. When you go back and your myths are warning you against things that they're warning you, or they're telling you stories about things that happened that are completely impossible to conceive of until we cross a line technologically, and then it's totally conceivable, and you have to wonder if that's a good idea. Like, this could be used for a lot of good, but
a prime example, you look at mythology and stuff, chimeras are all over the place. Even back to Babylon, Assyrian legend, stuff like that. There was the cherub, which was part lion, part eagle, part man. The same thing in Egyptian. Same thing with South American cultures. And it's interesting that exists, and now we're talking about that. Like, we actively put like jellyfish DNA into plants and stuff like that. Like, we actively create chimeras. Mm-hmm. So it's odd that, and not necessarily odd, but we've gotten back to that point.
Well, and that's another thing too. And you and I used to have these funny conversations about concept of evolution and stuff.
Right.
But one of the things that was always a sticking point in evolutionary theory is that mutants are sterile.
Yep.
So anytime you have, not necessarily interspecies, but like ligers can't breed other ligers.
Yeah.
You don't have extra species procreation that can survive past one generation. So in most cases, you have it in some, but not in enough to have a widespread over, and the concept of evolution moves so slow. But you start adding in like genetic modifications.
Yep.
Well,
and there are modern horror movies based on that.
Well, no, I'm talking about how like these kind of like sticking points in theoretical science that have always been sticking points until just recently, and now it's not a problem anymore.
Well, and the funny thing
you're
is,
like, well, wait a second,
we've been manipulating genes since the time of the Egyptians. They were the first ones to actually domesticate the greyhound.
Crossbreeding is not a thing. That's dogs within 2 or 3 generations go back to wolves.
Oh no, yeah.
That's not
well, and like technically all breeds of dog we have created, every single breed. And that's what I'm saying though, is that we've been doing this since the time of the Egyptians, where we take the traits of this dog and this dog, marry them together, create a new breed. We've been. It's not necessarily a chimera because it's not just like a liger. It's necessarily a chimera because it's not outside of species.
Right.
But if you were to take a dog and a cat and put them together,
right?
But dogs can't breed with cats, so.
But you can specialize. You can isolate traits.
You sure can.
From canine, and put them into a feline.
Yeah.
And then that feline can breed with other felines and carry those traits forward.
Absolutely.
That is something that until recently we couldn't do.
Yeah.
Even the ancient Egyptians. You're talking about breeding
and
hybrids and stuff. That's one thing.
Well,
but
and it was also breeding.
You can't turn
breeding
a rose.
The fast dog with the fast dog to make fast puppies that you then breed with faster dogs, and you create faster and faster dogs. So.
You can't take a rose and turn it into an oak tree.
No, you cannot.
But now you can take.
You can make an oak tree probably bloom roses.
You can't do that now. We couldn't do that.
We
before.
couldn't do that.
We
before.
could probably do that now.
Absolutely.
And
and it's interesting that we're talking
and then if we
about
do
this.
that, if we do that to an extent, and then something happens, say a pandemic, and everybody dies.
Yeah.
These things survive.
Yep.
And you have new species, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
To what it actually means.
Well, it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying in the episode recently on Nerdist. He was like, people think that like the dinosaurs went extinct horribly, and everything. They had like 1 billion years that they were on, like 1 billion years that they were on Earth. And you know what took them out? A fucking intergalactic cataclysm took them out. Otherwise, we'd be living alongside with dinosaurs.
Right.
And fortunately, things like the possum survived and stuff like that. Like a possum is one of the few animals that probably walked with the T-Rex.
Yeah.
As far as mammals go and stuff like that. People don't realize that. But Randy was recently talking in the last episode about a new genetic marker for intuition that has been found. And I mean, just talking about creepy, spooky stuff, that's one of those that's like, ooh, that's some straight fucking X-Men status shit. Like, we have actually found, like, a genetic marker for PKE, for, like, psychic ability.
Well, and that's why I said I didn't want to get way off into ether, but there's a reason why concepts of magic and those sorts of things. I mean, really, you got to think, like, if you were a survivor of a cataclysm, and and let's just let's make it funny, but let's also make it horror movie.
Yeah.
Let's say that some jokers get together and make a real Jurassic Park, and that shit
planning on it,
and that shit escapes and goes ape shit and destroys everything. But let's just say it just destroys your village. Just destroys your town, and you and your family are the sole survivors, and you manage to go down and you hunt down and you kill all those dinosaurs, and they are dead as dirt, and there are no more left. You got them, they're dead.
Yeah.
Then your generation passes, your grandson, who maybe is around, but your grandson grows up, and now he's an old man, and somebody starts talking about, how cool dinosaurs are. They're going to burn that motherfucker.
Yeah.
They're going to bring him up right out, and they'll be like, we are not talking about dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are evil, and they are banished.
Yeah.
And if you ever talk about dinosaurs, so then, you get...
This is what happens.
You get, like, 20 generations down. At that point, nobody even knows why they're scared of dinosaurs anymore, except for...
Yeah.
They see these bones, and they know that we don't talk about...
Yeah, we don't talk about dinosaurs.
We don't talk about that. and so not all, like we said, with lore, superstitions, it's easy to look through our modern lens back at people and be like, oh, they were superstitious. Like, no, they weren't. They weren't really superstitious. They were they were pretty smart. They're at least as smart as we are.
For the knowledge that they had at the time, yeah.
But there's a lot of reasons why they were scared of things. And it's because, life was hard and you could die.
Yeah.
So,
on the daily.
Yeah.
Like on the daily.
So,
your chances of death every day were much better than they are now.
Yeah. So,
your chances of not living to 25 were much better than they are now. To me, the whole concept sociologically of superstition, of lore, legend, is something that it goes deep with everybody. You know, it runs the whole world over. We all have those places, kind of like Rainbow Mound with the Aborigines in Australia, where it's like, no, you don't go there. You will anger the demons. You don't go there. You know, there are always those things. There are always those concepts. Those, I guess, like you were saying earlier, part of the zeitgeist, kind of an egregore that we have brought to life because of this. And it's interesting to me. I consider myself one of those people who has probably been desensitized by the movies I watched as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Like I laugh at them. Like people get beheaded, and I laugh. And I compliment the special effects because that was one of the first things I ever wanted to do. But you know, I remember the first time I watched The Exorcist. I was probably a good 7 years old, something like that. I was
That's
pretty
a little young for that.
I was pretty young, you know. But God, I also remember seeing some of the first Friday the 13th in the theater, you know, and stuff. I remember seeing. I didn't see Nightmare on Elm Street in the theater, but I saw it on HBO shortly thereafter. That was one of the first movies I remember being on HBO on fucking eternal repeat when I was a kid. You know, you could always be guaranteed to catch that on a weekend with my dad at the lake house. But it was, those movies seep into society and they become a part of us.
Well, you know, to be fair though, you don't have a whole lot of people dressing up as Jason and going out and killing people.
No.
No. You know, there's still that rational part of yourself that keeps you from going out and acting on these urges. I mean, certain people do, and, you know.
Yeah.
But
God bless.
We have a name for that, and it's called mentally disabled.
Yeah. It's called you crazy.
Right. You got problems.
Yeah.
No, man, get back to the horror movie stuff. I just remember whenever, I guess we were in high school, and I guess it was you and Randy. It had to have been you and Randy were talking about something that happened in a Friday the 13th. And I hadn't seen it. Like that, I hadn't seen that one out of however many there were at the time, but I think at that time there was 8 of them. Now there's 13 of them, but I hadn't seen that. So I was like, hey, dude, you could buy, each person could rent 3 videos. And I remember we went to Video Central or Blockbuster.
It was probably Video Central with Jamin.
And you got 3, and I got 3, and Jordan got 3. And we sat at my house, and we marathoned those fuckers.
Yeah, we did.
And then when we were done, we went through all the nightmares.
Yeah.
And we went through the Halloweens. And, just over the course of, a couple of weeks, we just hit every horror movie. You're like, oh, The Exorcist. I'm like, cool. Yeah. I remember being, not that impressed with The Exorcist. You're like, it's so scary. I'm like, it's all right. But, you know, there's certain scenes.
To me, it's more the production of The Exorcist. It's the storyline. It's the truth of the storyline. It goes through. There's a reason why it was banned by the church, because there was a lot of it that, you know, was really true to the process of exorcism. You know, they're going to send you through all these tests before we decide to do anything like that. Most of the time, except for in small third world countries, missions, stuff like that, which is where the good father had spent his time and battled the demon in her before, which is what you find out in number 2, all kinds of stuff. Father Marin, one of the best Max von Sydow roles ever. But I just, to me, it's the music, the soundtracking, the subliminals, the sounds of her growling and stuff are literally the sounds of pigs and sheep being slaughtered, played at a third speed and backward. You know, just it's just crazy stuff, man. The sound of wasps in jars, you know, just to feed off your primal fear and bring tension into the moment. Just the subliminals of the roses in the background whenever the demon starts to appear, just things like that. You know, kind of like a movie like Sixth Sense, where you start realizing things the more you watch it. Every time I watch The Exorcist, I get some new nuance of it. And that's why I love it.
Well, I mean, each their own. I mean, I had.
What's your go-to? What's your go-to horror?
Shit, as far as scariest movie, or
Well, let's go scariest, most entertaining.
Okay. Well, that's gonna be tough because I've seen a lot. I'd have to say the scariest movie I've seen in the last probably the last at least 10 years, maybe longer, was Sinister.
Mm.
It was just, it was unexpected. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I did not expect it to be as.
I haven't seen it. So.
I haven't expected. I didn't, and I'm not going to talk much about it because there is a twist ending, and the twist ending is not a relief. It makes it all so much worse. So it's, but just the way it was filmed, found footage, Super 8, mystery, suspense, and just the deaths in it are just unspeakable.
Wow.
And I mean, it's just hard to watch. And I mean, it's not one that you're like, hey, I got an idea. If you're trying to get your baby in the mood,
yeah,
you don't sit down and watch Sinister. That's a pretty rough one. That said, I don't know. I've seen so many. The Conjuring was good.
What's your go-to though? That like you can put on in the background and come in and out of.
The original John Carpenter Halloween is probably going to be. It's in my top 5, easily in my top 5. That movie's it's pretty perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obviously there's some stuff in it that's dated now, and there's some obvious like, wait a second, what's up with that? But it holds up with every viewing, and it's. I think the thing that's scariest about Halloween is not even what is happening; it's what's behind closed doors.
Yeah,
because in Halloween, so he's going around killing people, but he's also gathering them in that house. And
he rates like every year AMC does their like 10 scariest stuff like that. He consistently gets number 1 every year because they're as opposed to Freddy where all you have to do is not believe in him, as opposed to Jason where all you have to do is appeal to his inner child. As opposed to all these other maulers.
They like, kind of, I don't know, pop culture has kind of screwed up Jason.
Well,
if you watch Jason, he's not.
We've had that discussion though, and I think it was off air, but literally,
Jason's just straight up mean.
We're both big fans of the whole series,
right?
I love the first 3. They're just so fucking amazing,
right?
So amazing, so well done. The graphics, the special effects, Tom Savini in the first one.
They're stupid and schlocky. But the thing about Jason is he's a force of nature. Like, there's no reason with him. He wants your
until number 5. And that's when he comes back from the dead.
That was 6.
It's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
number
he comes
6.
back from the dead as, like, super zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, he's teleporting. He's not chasing people through the woods with a long step and he knows the shortcut. Stuff like that because he's been in the woods his whole life. And there's a twist in the first one. I'm not going to give it away.
Everybody's
old. If you don't know what it is, then you've got problems. But
well, no, I mean, as far as like scary horror movies, The Shining is up there.
Yeah.
Both of them. The remake.
Oh, dude, the remake was so good.
That was pretty close to the book.
What was his name? Tim Daly?
Uh-huh.
Oh my god, dude, he did so good in
that. And that was so much closer to the book.
Yeah, it was. I can't wait to see the new It.
I want to see that. It is another one.
It's supposed to be a whole lot closer to the book.
That miniseries, was pretty close to the book.
Yeah.
What they could do with it. I mean, the book's like 1,200 pages.
Yeah.
So I'm just playing. I'm not lighting up another one yet. But I mean, the book was scary as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, that book.
Yeah. But yeah, your go-to horror movie that you can come in and out of, what would that be for you?
I got so many. Again, Event Horizon.
Oh,
that was one. That,
do you consider sci-fi?
Sci-fi. Event Horizon is not even tangentially sci-fi.
I consider it I consider there are genres of sci-fi horror. I consider aliens in there, stuff like that, where it's not like horror. I consider being here in the dream world. One of the two.
So
like,
it's like
sci-fi horror, and I mean they're differentiated typically in a movie store too. But even on Netflix,
a movie like Alien is, and I'm going to use words here that make it sound like
please use words on my podcast, Billy.
Okay. No, like I said earlier, like basically what happens is if you sit there and you'll say, damn, dude. So,
sorry. Go ahead, please.
Speak. When I talk about certain movies or books, characters or whatever, and I speak about them as if they're real. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only way you can.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you keep having to go back and try to punctuate the fact that you understand it's just a movie, whatever, you don't really believe in dinosaurs, but if you're sitting there talking about how the way the DNA crosses in the frogs and the way it should have been or could have happened or whatever.
Yeah.
Alien is one of those things that very much could happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a 8-foot tall Geiger print. It could be a virus.
Yep.
But it's not really sci-fi because...
Well, Dreamcatcher by Stephen King was like that.
But, it's not really sci-fi because we have spaceships that go to other celestial bodies.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They could go to the moon and they could pick up some bug, whether it's a bug, a roach, or a...
That's why they were in decontamination for a month whenever they came back.
Right. So, that's not really sci-fi as much as it's forward thinking, but the horror is the unknown. You've got this thing on your ship that's killing you off, and it's not supernatural. I mean,
it's real.
It's real.
Yeah. Okay, I get your argument.
Event Horizon. The only thing that's even vaguely sci-fi is how that warp drive works.
Yeah.
But even then, it takes you right into the nightmare realm because the way it's supposed to work is based off of what could be easily considered current science.
Yeah.
The idea of building a warp drive that could create a wormhole to take you from this position to that position.
It's what you'd have to do.
But
I talked about that in the last episode.
When they turned it on, it took them into a different dimension, and that dimension is hell.
Yeah.
And however it got back, it brought hell with it. There's nothing in there. They're not walking around beaming each other or being sci-fi-ish or dealing with aliens or whatever. They're dealing with the actual
torments inside of themselves.
They're dealing with hell.
Yeah.
Period. That's what they brought on. That's what the ship became.
Yeah.
Is a vessel for hell. So anytime you have vivisections and people ripping their eyes out and, all of that stuff. Because, there was a whole lot of nightmare. Like actual dream nightmare, but there was also a whole lot of actual real killing each other and the demon fucking with them and stuff. It's not really sci-fi. You can have a good solid scary sci-fi, but no, that's solid stuck in the horror genre.
Okay. So for you, would it be Event Horizon your go-to?
I would say Halloween.
All right.
Halloween. Your Exorcist.
Well, I would say Exorcist is probably up there as far as my favorite, and it's for the reasons that I stated. It's the whole concept, the way it was put together for the time was just absolutely visionary. But for me, my go-to, man, it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up for me, but I would probably have to say go-to horror movie for me that I could just put on and come in and out of, fucking Hellraiser.
See, I love Hellraiser, but Hellraiser I can't go into and out of. I'm either watching it or I'm not.
Yeah. And I say that just because I've seen it so many times that I know where every part of the storyline is.
Yeah.
Like I can watch it out of sequence like fucking Pulp Fiction and be okay.
I haven't seen Hellraiser a whole lot of times, but again, I'm either watching it or I'm not.
That is one of my favorite movies as far as like visual effects. The the whole scene in the attic where he comes back to life is just one of the most beautiful things ever put up. Another one for me would be the 90s rendition of The Fly. Brundlefly, dude. It's such a good story. It's such a good re-envisioning of a story.
That's just such a nice little Easter egg, is that nobody called him that.
Yeah.
That the computer just scanned him and was like, "Oh, you're the Brundlefly."
Yeah. Well, he called himself that at one point.
Not until later.
Yeah.
The computer called him that first.
Yeah.
Once he came out, and it's like Brundlefly.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, the computer knows something.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
I remember seeing that the first time and just being like...
And that's another one that, number 2 holds up really well. That's some good Eric Stoltz action. You know, it's done really, really well as a sequel. And Hellraiser 2 was done fairly well as a sequel. You know, Friday the 13th was a great sequel. They had a really great run, I would say, up around 5, 6. And then after that, it became straight up hokey. Like, I remember one of my favorite scenes ever is actually, I say it's hokey, but number 8, Jason Takes New York. I remember seeing that in the theater with my cousin Heidi. And the scene on top with the boxer guy
he knocks
his head off and he goes down the fire escape into the dumpster and shuts the lid. It's like, all right, man, that's crazy sauce. But
then you haven't seen Jason X, where he freezes her face with the...
Oh, no, I've seen Jason X.
And then his kill count. Jason's kill count's something like 165, but they didn't count the fact that he blew up... trying to get away from Jason, blew up that space station.
Yeah.
And killed, all the people in it.
Killed everybody. Now, and one of the things Randy and I were talking about, and I believe I saw it with you, actually, in the theater, New Nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually a really, really, really great take on the Nightmare on Elm Street genre, on the whole family.
That was that meme thing we were talking about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because that was reality. That was in real life, and Jason or Freddy got into real life. I've always enjoyed the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Franchise, yeah.
The problem that I had with it was after I think it was just the first one. The first one is the only one that's actually scary. The rest of them are him making funny jokes and puns and teasing people. And
number 2, not so much.
Number 2 wasn't even really him until the end. It was that dude.
Yeah, well, it was him possessing the dude.
Yeah.
It was him taking the dude over, which was a really interesting twist on it. You know, I actually enjoy number 2 quite a bit because of that. Because it is a real twist on the idea. But... yeah, after that it becomes very much the dream world and the world of the dream world and the crazy things that can happen in there, you know, that are utterly dreamlike, where it's like, yeah, you know, I'm a roach in a roach motel.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of shit.
So, I mean, slasher stuff, I guess, all of them kind of...
As far as slasher goes, I would probably say my favorite would be Texas Chainsaw. I love Chainsaw.
I like Chainsaw. It's one of those, if you're normal and you watch that often, you're not normal.
Yeah, no.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I dig it. I got no problem with Chainsaw, but it's not one that you can sit there and just watch over and over again, because it's so...
I do watch American Psycho frequently.
Christian Bale has nice eyes.
Yeah. I think it's really more the Huey Lewis scene that does it for me, though. The Huey Lewis scene is just great.
That's Batman killing the Joker.
His appreciation, yeah, right. But yeah, his appreciation of music is where, is where I enjoy it.
It's not him. He doesn't appreciate the music. He doesn't at all. That's his problem. Is he's a complete sociopath.
Oh yeah.
He cannot connect. when he's talking about the music, he's quoting a review.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way he can connect any meaning to the music itself. All these people, he's very rich. He's got all these people that are around him. They find value in these things. He does not. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand. None of it matters to him. Nothing matters to him. So, to him, the only thing that matters is having better stuff than them.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy the storyline of that.
I haven't seen American Psycho that much, but I don't remember. In the end, what happens in the end of American Psycho?
In the end of American Psycho, he basically, like, it just kind of unresolves, and you don't know whether he actually did shit or whether he didn't do shit.
Right.
You know? Like, he sees his lawyer and he's like, oh my God, that message was fucking hilarious. He's like, no, I did this. And he's like, no, you didn't. I had dinner with this dude like just a couple days ago. What the fuck are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
Shit like that. Like, it's an interesting twist at the end.
Well, that's what happened in the end of the book too. Was that?
And I would consider that one much more in the realm of gory psychological thriller. Much like, you know, I don't really consider Silence of the Lambs horror. I consider it a psychological thriller. It's a thriller. You know.
No, it's total thriller. I mean, these lines get blurred real easily, though, depending on.
Yeah.
You know. Jaws could easily be called a fishing movie.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Yeah. I personally love, one of my real go-tos this time of year is always Return of the Living Dead.
Send more paramedics.
Yeah. That shit's just awesome. Like, it is completely and utterly 80s. You got some chick that gets naked for absolutely no reason and runs around naked for like 3/4 of the movie. Mm-hmm. Some great zombie effects, you know, that are just beautiful and actual physical effects, like the half woman on the table, shit like that.
There's a lot of good stuff.
You know, and that was really one of the first ones where it became about brains. Where that's what the zombies were craving, was brain.
So are you a fan of zombies?
I am a fan of zombies. I used to love, and Steven and I talk about it frequently. We talked about it last year in the Halloween episode. Lucio Fulci, really the king of the zombie genre back in the day, before George A. Romero brought it into the mainstream, which wasn't even mainstream at the time, but Night of the Living Dead. It was nowhere near mainstream when it came out. It was absolutely a B movie, but became very much the birth of something. But I was a big fan of Lucio Fulci, a lot of the Italian zombie movies and stuff.
So do you like fast zombies or slow zombies?
I like slow zombies. I'm a slow zombie guy. I can't do the virus zombie thing, you know, the 12 days after zombie,
28 days,
or 28 days after. Yeah, I can't do that action.
I don't know, man. Dawn of the Dead was pretty badass.
Dawn of the Dead was some good shit.
The remake, that's
and that's I love the original Dawn, because that was, of course, one of the movies that Tom Savini did, and I'm just a Tom Savini nut.
Freaking Mackay Pfeiffer and Zombie Baby.
Absolutely. You know, but yeah, most of the time, I guess, whenever I'm thinking horror, I normally go back to my old slasher days. The good gory stuff that I remember from when I was a kid, from Fangorian magazine and shit like that. That's more what I'm about whenever I'm thinking horror.
See, like I said, I find it difficult to be able to even watch horror movies these days, just because of who's in the house.
Well, I find it difficult because a good 2/3 of them are remakes.
There's that.
Like, I do love some classic horror. Like, you give me some original 13 Ghosts, done. You know, great shit. You know, I like that old school stuff.
Right.
I really do. You know, even some of the old B horror I like. Even the original Universal Monsters I like a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, all of that stuff is good. And I do like those old schlock movies, you know, the Hammer films and stuff, you know, whenever I can catch them.
Blackula, son. That's the one.
But, you know, between the books and the movies, like, I collect horror comics as well.
Yep.
You know, like Old House of Mystery, and, you know, that's funny stuff, man, because, you know, it's drawn scarily. The stories are really, you know, pretty schlocky, but...
Yeah, they're very Scooby-Doo-esque.
Very. But, I mean, they're written for kids. What you going to do?
Yeah.
But, you know, it is bizarre how the government had such a freak out over it, because it's really not that bad.
No.
You know?
No.
But it's more the art than it is the story anyway, because the art is pretty... I want to preface this by saying I collect this art. I love this art, and I wouldn't want it to be any other way. But the art is kind of scary. You know.
Yeah, and they cover some shit. Like a personal favorite that kind of goes into that, the Creepshow series. You know, I love the concept of Creepshow where it's all based off of a comic book. You know, and it's it's all just like 3-4 short stories put together, both of them. And yeah, just that short story idea that was based off of comic books like that you're talking about.
I just wonder if anybody could have conceived of how still frightening and just everlasting that pond with that tar monster floating around in it.
Yeah, right?
I mean, that's one of the scariest movies ever because of that thing. Like, do you even remember the episodes before that? But that one, scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite shows when I was a kid, man, it used to scare the hell out of me, dude, was friggin' Tales from the Dark Side.
Oh,
Tales from the Dark Side, to me, was way better than Tales from the Crypt. It was much more creepy stories. And one of my favorites was the Halloween episode of the old man that was in his house that his son was like, come on, be nice, give some candy out to the kids. I don't want to get no kids. But there was like this creepy, like, fuzzy monster that kept like knocking on the door, and he'd look outside and he'd be like on the swing like and like, yeah.
Was that kind of like Sam from Trick or Treat?
Kind of. Yeah, it was, oh my God, it was just such a creepy episode that was like, what the f*** is this, dude? And one of my favorites to this day that like gives me chills whenever I see it.
Dude, one that Tales from the Dark Side, one of the ones that got me, still gets me. There was like he was retarded in some way. He was like, he couldn't talk, but he could look at catalogs and he'd see something he wanted and he could manifest it. So if he saw a bike, he'd look at it, he'd go, bring, and a bike would appear next to him.
Yeah.
And so there's this old lady and this old man, and they've got this kid who's, you know, they try to keep him from seeing things that he wants. So they keep him out of pictures and they keep him out of whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, they just show how it happening. Like, he picks up mail, he's like, bring, bring, bring. And then, like, they just got a basement full of crap that he's always manifested. Then the mother dies. And they go to the funeral. Like, the dad goes to the funeral. The kid's left at home. And the dad gets home. And the kid can't handle the fact that his mom's gone or whatever. And the dad's, like, in the kitchen doing something. The kid starts digging around. He finds a picture of his mom. And the dad walks in and sees him. And he's like, no. He's like, bring. And then, like, mom's dead corpse just appears on the recliner. Just like, blah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, God.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That one's stuck in my head forever. Forever. Like, that is so wrong.
Yeah, that was like the Twilight Zone episode of The Wish Child. The kid who, like, everybody in town feared because whatever he wanted, like, came to life. Mm-hmm. You know, shit like that. I love stuff like that. I live for that kind of shit. I was a big fan of Tales from the Dark Side. That was a scary ass show. I need to see if I can find that anywhere.
It's all on YouTube.
Is it?
It is.
Really?
It is.
Wow. Nice.
Good stuff.
I'm gonna check that shit out, dude. Hell yeah. But on that note, everybody, go by, check out Tales from the Dark Side on YouTube. While you're on YouTube, check out Dudes and Beer.
Dudes and Beer is a good thing.
We're on YouTube. We're also on iTunes. We're also on SoundCloud. We're also on Spreaker and Stitcher. And we're also a part of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. So check out a bunch of their stuff. Fuck Your Opinion. And, some of those damn comic book guys, as well as the International O. And until next time, everybody, keep it spooky, keep it scary this Halloween. Make sure that you drink responsibly. If you're going to go out and drink, use FAIR. Use FAIR and use DUDES10. Use the promo code DUDES10 and you will get 10% off of all your FAIR rides every time you use that. So drink responsibly this Halloween, guys. And hey, until next time, if you can't be good at it.
Rock.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our live audio streams, tune in at dudesandbeer.com or Spreaker.com/dudesandbeer. You can find our episodes on SoundCloud.com as well as the Google Play and iTunes market. You can also find us on YouTube, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.